Hi, I'm Jared.
And I'm Kyle Baker.
And welcome to Realities of Real Estate. This is a show where we dive into the realities of what happens behind the actual real estate scene. We myth bust certain myths that aren't necessarily true, and we bring on local experts to cover a range of topics related to real estate, whether buying, selling, or investing. Today's topic is pain points of the buying process. Let's get started. I know the title of our video is a little out there, and it might seem a little scary.
Yeah, mainly I consider them called pain points because it's different points that I want to discuss with every buyer, so you know what's involved. So these can be, what I consider pain points are your down payment, your purchase price, your monthly payment, your closing costs, and your cash to close.
I think that's a pretty solid 5. Yeah.
Yes. So let's kind of start from the top there. So your purchase price, knowing what your affordability is, having an idea of how much do you want to spend for a home. So once we figure that out and we go through your process and we figure out, okay, you're going to put X amount of dollars down, whether that's a first-time home buyer, you want to use a 3% down program, 5%, we know, okay, so you have your purchase price, we go by your percentage of what you're going to put down, and so you know, all right, I need X amount of dollars for my down payment. Right. Then we move over to what's included in my monthly payment. So everything that's included in your mortgage payment is going to be your principal and interest on the loan, your homeowner's insurance, your property taxes, and if you are not putting 20% down, most of the time you will have what is called mortgage insurance.
Right.
And that, in a nutshell, is what your effective monthly payment's going to be.
So let me interject on 2 topics real quick here. Number 1, I obviously am Realtor for vets, so a lot of my clients are veterans. Guys, you are qualified for a $0 down payment loan, and that does not have mortgage insurance.
Correct.
Now, there is a funding fee that gets charged, but it still comes out to less than mortgage insurance for almost all buyers. And if you're a disabled vet, that gets waived. And we'll get into that separately in another video. Yeah. But I do want you to understand that all my veterans, that just because you qualify for a $0 down payment loan does not mean you spend $0 out of your pocket in the buying process. And we'll cover that when we talk about closing costs. The other part of what you were getting at with the PITI,
yeah.
I just wanted to dumb that down even further.
Yes.
And not that you guys are dumb, but for myself. Before I was in the industry, I didn't really understand that process. So what goes into a mortgage is PITI, principal and interest, which is your mortgage payment, then your taxes, which can vary, property to property, city to city, state to state, school zone, all kinds of stuff. Yep. And then your insurance, which also varies property to property, right? You could have 2 very similar properties, but one might have a new roof, one might not. Right. That could be a significant difference in your monthly payment. With regard to those topics, the third pain point that I wanted to kind of dig into is when you guys are shopping online and you're on these mega websites, we all know who they are, and you're doing an estimated payment on there. Very, very likely they're going to be estimating the payment based off of a 20% down program to make it look shiny and happy for you. So you might think you're buying a home at $1,500 a month,
right? And
you come to find out for you it's actually $1,900,
right? Because
you didn't put 20% down. This is why you need to talk to Kyle or a local lender. In any case, please continue.
Yeah, no, and I mean, to follow up on that, and you do see a lot of these mortgage calculators or affordability calculators online. One, it's probably advertising interest rates that are not even available.
Right.
Plus, it's going to consider you as excellent credit, 20% down, low debt to income ratios. So you're seeing the bright, shiny object to get you attracted.
And it's not going to include HOA.
No.
Because they don't know the HOAs in that neighborhood.
Right.
And it's probably not going to do the right taxes or the right insurance.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just to kind of give you an idea, but definitely reach out to a local expert to go over all of these things, preferably myself. But reach out and ask the questions. What does this all include? Based off of my exact scenario, what's everything included? So, and I think personally for me, that's one of the biggest, that's something you're affected by every single month is your monthly payment. If you're comfortable with your monthly payment, a lot of times we can work out the logistics of the closing costs and different things.
Right on. Now, in talking about the closing costs, I think that's probably the next pain point that I'd like to hit.
Yes.
Because I think that's where a lot of my buyers get hung up. They have an idea in their head of, okay, well, my down payment, that's all I have to pay, right? Can you explain, and I'll even kind of tack on maybe some additional things that those closing costs really are meant to cover?
Right, absolutely. So there's a multitude of things that go into what are considered your closing cost. So in the state of Florida, we have, different taxes that we have to pay when we purchase a home, recording fees, processing fees, underwriting fees, appraisal fees. There's a lot. When we start really breaking it down.
Survey,
absolutely.
Prorated HOA, title to make sure everything gets transferred properly, you name it.
Right. There's a lot of people that are involved on the back end of your loan process or your home buying process. It's not just the realtor and the lender. There's a lot of people on the background doing a lot of work and filing this to make sure that it's legitimate and legal and that you are buying a home that has clean title. You're not going in that the property has multiple liens on it and now that's your problem. So we do have title companies that we work with, attorneys that make sure that you're buying a home free of any issues. So that's the majority of your cost is going to be the cost to obtain the loan, what it takes to get that loan, and then to take the property or take possession with clear title and make sure that everything is good. The second part of what a lot of people think are or considered closing costs are your prepaid items. So if you're not putting 20% down and you are paying what is called escrowing or putting your money into an escrow account and allowing the mortgage company to pay your insurance, pay your property taxes when they're due, we have to collect enough of those funds at closing to make sure when the taxes are due, here in Florida, they're due in November, so we know whenever you're going to close that there's enough money in there to pay the taxes on time when they're due. Same thing with your insurance. A lot of times you're going to pay your 1 year premium up front, so it's considered a prepaid item.
Right.
And that's where we get to the cash to close portion. So it includes all of your down payment funds, your closing cost, and your prepaid items. That is your cash to close number. That's your bottom line. And so that's something that we want to go over up front at the beginning, so hey, if maybe you can negotiate some costs or there's need some repairs and they're willing to pay some costs for you, then that number is going to come down a little bit. But we want to make sure that, hey, if you're comfortable with this, then this is going to be a breeze.
Right on. I think, to simplify, if you're planning to buy a home, you do not have to have this right now. But if you are planning for down payment and closing costs, if you're a veteran, you should just plan for closing costs and use that $0 down option when you can.
Right.
If you're somebody else that's using a specific style program, even if you're doing FHA, it's 3.5% down program. It's pretty easily recognizable to research online and figure that out. You still need to plan for closing costs. A good range that Kyle and I like to use for our buyers is if you're buying with cash, you can really estimate about 2% for closing costs. If you're buying with a loan, you should estimate between 3 and 4%. 4% is more for if you're using a down payment assistance or you're using a specialized program. I like to make sure that you guys plan for 3.5% for closing costs plus whatever your down payment is. So take the purchase price of whatever home you're looking to buy and plan for 3.5% of that number plus the percentage of your down payment. And that's how much liquid cash we would like you to have for purchasing a home. There are creative ways of finding that money, whether we do it through a retirement system you have, checking and savings that you have, or talking with a family member.
Right, gift funds. I mean, we always want to have a plan, and have plan A, B, and C.
And sometimes plan D, which is I'm not going to have that money, but let's see if there's anything available. And that's when we can look at programs.
We start digging for different options.
So I just want to make sure that everybody has at least a general idea and understands
perfect.
that you do need to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
What other pain points or anything else that you wanted to cover today?
Yeah, to kind of go in that, and we'll have another episode on what an inspection process is and the differences of an inspection versus an appraisal.
Right.
So you can look for that as well to kind of go over that. But a lot of times those are outside expenses. So depending on what kind of loan program you're getting, we always suggest, I don't care if it's an older home or a brand new construction, I always suggest you get a full-blown home inspection. Right. And these are third-party fees. So these are additional costs that we don't include or consider closing costs because you're paying them outside of the closing.
Right. It's not wrapped up in your loan. It doesn't have anything to do with the purchase itself, but it is part of the process. Yeah.
Right. The other thing is that's kind of outside of it, or that it gets added on at the end, but is your deposit on your home. So your earnest money deposit or escrow deposit, depending on how you want to word it. But earnest money deposit or at-risk money, that's money that you should have prepared before you go and put the offer in. And that's going to be something that your realtor will go over with you on the contract and say, how much do you want to put down to secure this property? And a very typical number is around 1% of your purchase price, and then that money is applied to your down payment or closing cost when we go to close.
Yeah. So to elaborate on that, even if you were using a $0 down program, and we already talked about planning for closing costs, out of that 3.5% number that we're suggesting, let's say that number comes out to $15,000 total in closing costs, and you plan to put $5,000 towards a deposit. That does not mean that your $5,000 goes away and now you owe another $15,000.
Right.
That means that when you make the offer and they accept your offer, you put $5,000 into a separate escrow account that basically protects you and the seller. It protects the seller, saying that if you breach the contract illegally, they get that $5,000.
Right.
It protects you in the sense of it helps you to secure getting the home and proves that you have that money sitting there, and it honestly protects you from spending the money too.
Right.
Because if that $5,000 is away from you, it's not in your account.
We know you're not going to buy furniture with it to go on vacation.
So,
hopefully.
So that's something just to keep in mind. You will get that money back at closing. And, buyers rarely with a solid realtor will ever lose a deposit unless they do something that we didn't tell them to do.
Right. I mean, if they're listening to us and understanding the process, and we'll go over everything with you up front. If you're understanding the contract and meeting those timeline deadlines, we will never put you at risk of losing that money.
Yeah, and I would stand by that statement as well. You will not lose your deposit if you do everything we tell you to do when we tell you to do it. But it's something to prepare for, because if you think, oh, I just need to have $15,000 by X date, well, no, you're going to need to have money for your inspection and your deposit within 3 days
upfront, ready
of
to
being
go.
under contract. The rest of the money you can come up with during that process.
Yep.
Thank you once again for joining us on Realities of Real Estate. As always, if you could, we'd love if you'd leave a comment with some feedback or suggestions for future topics, as we always love to hear from you guys.
Yes, and please do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. The more people that you can share this with, show it to, the more people we can help and get this word out there.
Perfect. And feel free to reach out to either one of us or both of us with any questions you had either about today's topic or the buying, selling, or investment process. All of our information is in the link below, as well as at the end of the video. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you later.